and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by, she's become a friend of mine. I'm so stoked to have her on, and I can't believe it took us this long. Former professional race car driver, Danica Patrick. Danica, you and I have obviously gotten to know each other over the course of campaigning over the past several months, but I think you already know the reason I invited you and wanted you on the show. You got to tell me about your workout routine and all the things. No, really, you're amazing. And I want to say thank you for all, first of all, that you did throughout the course of the campaign. And I know you were never political before. So how's it all been, and how does it feel on the other side that we got a big W?
Oh my God. I mean, that night just standing in the crowd, after all the states all the swing states kept going red, and you're like, wow. And once Pennsylvania came through, you're like, oh my God, it's really happening.
Yeah.
I got a message from one of my oldest friends from high school, and she was like, wow, like you did it, and it was like, you is not right. It's a big, big we, as I well learned in the process, how many people it takes. But it takes all the people. So there is an individual effort put in by all the people. And it was kind of almost the phrasing, that's why I'm mentioning it, that made me feel so, that kind of hit home for a second. And I was with Jessica Krause and her friend Denise that does all the photos. And like, I just hugged them. And I just, I was like, whoa, just kind of took a couple deep breaths with my eyes closed, like, oh my God. Because it's just, it's been a long time since I just like volunteered so much time out of passion and out of a calling. I guess it's been a while since there's been a calling. And that's kind of what it was. It was a very unforced process for me that began at AmFest in the end of 2023. And I won't go on and on about the process about that, but it started. So it was only really like in its infancy of like a year. And it wasn't then until Tulsi invited me to moderate for her and Bobby in Vegas. And now I did other stuff, so I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but that was kind of the next pivot point where it was like, okay, now I'm really doing that. Now we're campaigning. And it was just such a blessing to be on that last phase of it, that last sort of 4 or 5 days with Tulsi and yourself and, the man himself, Donald Trump. So I'll never forget flying home on Trump Force One, sitting next to him, hanging out, being like, how did I get here? This is so wild.
I feel like that every day, Danica. I don't know what the heck's going on. It's kind of wild. But look, I didn't know until you and I were out like campaigning and all over the place that you really had never voted before. Is that right? Was this your first election?
Yeah, I never voted. I didn't even know if I was registered to vote. I just, it's stupid. I think that I heard that you are enrolled for jury duty if you're registered to vote. So I was like, well, that's a pain in the butt. Like, I'm not going to do that. But I never was into politics. Just wasn't. It was like when I get into something, it's pretty consuming. So, now I find myself, watching a lot of Fox News and, YouTube shows that are all about the news. And, very fascinated with it all.
Well, look, I thought one of the coolest things you did was to come out after the election and say, look, all these folks, Megan Thee Stallion, 2 Chainz, Eminem, all these people got big paydays for getting out there and supporting Kamala Harris. And I want to come out and very publicly talk about how much I was paid to support Donald Trump. So go ahead and let the people know, Danica.
Yeah. I'm going to say it cost me money.
I'm sure it did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It was fun to go shopping for it all. Got a new fancy red Alexander McQueen suit and a bunch of other things. And I was like, red's my favorite color anyway. So I felt like I was born for this mission. But I got paid nothing. And it was truly my honor. So, and I think that one of the examples of what you see with those who were paid is that they came in for a moment and they were gone. There was no story to it. It was just a moment. And, to the point where I think it pissed some people off that Beyonce didn't put her concert on. Right. So, although there was that, Yeah, exactly. So, I did a lot, and I think there were those sort of what we're called surrogates, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had to look up what that meant, but that's basically someone with a platform that's helping campaign.
Yeah.
We were engaged for a lot of it. Sage Steele's another one that's become a good friend over the years. So we did a lot of things, and those who were paid were really just moments in time. And I think we're in a phase of humanity, I'm even going to say, where we're just becoming far more sensitive to truth through the frequency that it emits. And, those people didn't carry any. There's no frequency there. It's just a transaction. And people are craving the real connection, the real truth. And I guess maybe that's why it resonated so much with people. Maybe that's hopefully it converted voters. I'm gonna say it had to have at least helped one, maybe, or made them get to vote for the first time.
Yeah.
But I think that we're just in an era where if you're not speaking your truth, it just doesn't land with people anymore.
You know, I'm not sure if I even asked you this whenever we were out campaigning together, but did you know my father-in-law before this election cycle? Had you met him before?
No, no, and I didn't meet him
Wow.
until probably 3 weeks before the election, I guess, because it was in Vegas at a
Wow.
rally, and I got inside the picture line, and I was like, oh man, I was kind of thinking, this is how I'm gonna meet him in a picture line. I was like, oh. But I've never met him before. I've been asked to do so many different things. Obviously, Celebrity Apprentice, I was asked many, many times. It was the only reality show that I considered, because
Wow.
it engaged like the mind so much more. It was a much more it just felt like it was a much more real process. Although the thought of having to ask a bunch of people for money the whole time, which is kind of part of the premises, was really challenging for me. I was like, I'm so bad at even promoting myself, let alone asking for money. So and then it's just the time required. I've worked so much in my life, so it was time was difficult. But then even I'm trying to think. I felt like I asked a ton of times to do Miss Universe. I feel like I don't know if he owned it or still owns it, but
Hmm.
there's just been a lot of programs that I've been asked to do, but had never had the ability to do them. So
Wow.
I don't know if he's really known much about me over the years, but he did say when he saw me for the first time, I'm a really big fan. So I guess he knows my name.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it's so interesting. Your paths almost crossed all those times. And
Yeah.
then you finally met him as you were out campaigning for him to
Yeah.
become the next president after all the chaos of how politics are these days. Um, and I know that like I saw you on the plane with him getting along well. What were you surprised at all by kind of how easy he is to talk to? Because that's the thing I tell people all the time. I'm like, Donald Trump is one of the funniest people I've ever met. And he's actually like very down to earth and very
Yep.
normal based on all the things you hear about him and all the things you could assume about a person in that position. I just, I always
Yeah.
like to hear what people's take is on him after you first meet him.
Yeah, it's just that. I think it would have been even easier to have a conversation with him if he would have turned the volume down on the music. He plays that music so
It's
loud. It's like I had to like crank around and look at it like lip read. I had to lip
yep.
read because he's just like because he plays the music so loud. Everything from is James Brown to Sinead O'Connor. So but it was so easy. I mean, he's just an easy get along guy. He really says anything. That's
Yeah.
also another thing. What you see him do on stage, and you see those moments that are so viral and catch people off guard. I think he's doing it because he's just trying to keep people interested and entertained, including himself. But the same thing when we hung out on the plane, it was just like he'll just say anything. He's just
Yeah.
like really honest and very easy to hang out with, and plays his music really loud.
He sure does play that music loud. I know. Nobody slept on that plane coming back from Grand Rapids, Michigan. That is for sure.
I heard he
Um,
didn't sleep for 3 days. Is that true? I
I
mean,
think I think that's accurate. I was actually trying to figure out exactly how it all went down for him because I know he was coming into that with having very little rest. And then we had that day, it was the four rallies all in one day. I think we got off stage in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I think he walked off stage close to 3 a.m. or 2:30 or something. And we had
yep,
to drive back to the airport. We landed in Palm Beach at 5:35 in the morning.
yep,
And nobody had, it's no sleep for him. I think I slept 1 hour on that flight back. Then he had to get up, or get off the plane, go get ready. He went and voted, and then it was election night. And nobody slept that night either. So
Yeah,
probably at least
exactly.
48 hours, this guy.
Oh.
My Pillow is excited to announce that their Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Their famous My Slippers, these haven't been on sale for over a year and are regularly priced at $119.98, but for a limited time are now only $59.98. And their 6-pack towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of My Pillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list, from bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. But that's not all. They're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free. Go to mypillow.com or call 800-624-3945 and be sure to use promo code TRUMP to save on all My Pillow products. That's promo code TRUMP.
Oh my
Sleep.
God. I mean, I
can't
went
do
to
it.
bed I had like a 90-minute out window to sleep before my flight home because I caught an 8 a.m. flight home. I'm not really sure why I did that.
Yeah.
Probably because it was the only direct flight. And I set and I snoozed my alarm, and luckily my VP called me, and I was like, oh my God, I just woke up, and it was 5 minutes past when I was supposed to get in the car to leave. So yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I was exhausted. So he's a
Yeah.
machine, and
He is.
I talk about this every now and again, especially when I do speaking engagements and things, but speaking more about that energy of things, when you're doing things that are really meant for you in alignment with you, it gives you infinite energy. It really does. Like, you think about the things that you do that you don't want to do, and they're so draining. They're like life sucking. And then the things that you really enjoy and really love and are something of a passion to you, or a calling. I mean, that's the stuff that keeps you going forever. It's like an infinite supply of energy. I mean, except for the little biological meat suit we live in that needs sleep every now and again, I guess. But the energy for it is just so there. I don't know if you
Yep.
noticed that or not, but
No, 100%. I totally agree. Well, and I feel that like that in my life. I know you're exactly right. The things that you kind of are like, oof, it's hard, but you get exhausted by doing whatever it is. If you are, I feel like that's the way that God kind of channels you to what direction you're supposed to be going. And if you're intuitive enough to listen to him and to follow your own gut and your own heart, I think that naturally that's the way you gravitate, because that's, in some ways it's like the path of least resistance, although oftentimes it means you have to work even harder to get
Right.
there. So I completely agree with you on that. And by the way, speaking of the meat suit we're in that has to sleep every now and again, you are in great shape. And I love a workout, and I feel like,
I mean, look
yeah.
at you.
Oh, no,
Especially with
but
that new workout collection that just came out. Look at your body. Hello.
well, thank you. Right back the first time
20-year-olds
you and I met,
across the
though.
world are jealous forever.
No, but the first time you and I met, you were like walking across a parking lot to me, and I was like, damn, look at her arms, like Danica. Okay, but here's what I want to ask you. So I've been into sports my whole life. I was not a professional race car driver, obviously, but how much of what you're doing in a race car? Look, you're not a huge person. I'm much taller than you are, and you're there in these race cars. I'd imagine that there's some element of exercise and fitness you have to have in
Yeah.
order to really be a good driver. Is that right?
Well, it's upper body strength. So you've got
Yeah.
that nailed. I mean, it's a little bit of core control, but of course, like, to hold onto the wheel, it's just so much from that up. So you do have to have a lot of strength. And now there's not quite so many peak strength moments. It's not like being able to throw a football as far as you possibly can. It's not a matter of being able to sprint somewhere. So it's like, it's physically challenging, but not your peak. And it's a cardiovascular challenge, but not your peak either. Although there are some moments that it comes up quite a bit. Some drivers have worn heart rate monitors that show somewhere between like 110 to 170 throughout the entire race. So it's somewhat
Wow.
of like running.
Yeah.
Like running hills, maybe, right? You got some downhill, you got some uphill. But it's yeah, so it's like running a marathon every weekend when I used to race. So
Wow.
yeah, it takes strength. But I mean, these days, I went through, I have no idea if you've overtrained in your life. It doesn't look like it, but because you're in peak physical condition. And I say that because when you overtrain, your body just doesn't like it, and it creates inflammation, and it's hard to achieve overload progression with weights, which ends up being lean muscle mass if you're overtraining. So back when I was in NASCAR, I started doing CrossFit, which was just so much fun because it was like challenging. It was like hard.
I love
And I almost
CrossFit,
died. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
competitive. So it filled a lot of buckets for me. But then, the results, I feel like, with people that start that are really good the first couple of years. And then as you get stronger and like get into it, like then you start upping the weights even more. You start doing more workouts. And
Get a
anyway,
little
I got
crazy.
sucked in. I get sucked into the crazy. And so then I started doing, 2 workouts or 2 a days, and just no rest days. And I know no days off is a thing you say. And I know the mindset. And I believe in that from a overall sense of like, you got to get into life. Like you've got to go for it. I not being lazy is a like very, very core value of mine. But it's about being smart about it. So I used to do it every day, and now I do 3 days a week for 1 hour, and sometimes it's 2 days a week only because that's
Wow.
what I
Are
have
you just
available.
lifting?
Just lifting. It's truly just lifting. So every single rep, every single weight gets recorded so that each week you can build up a little bit more. That's called progressive overload. So I work in the sort of, I would say 5 to 11 rep range, but sometimes we go down to 2 reps or 1, but that's sporadically. We'll do the strength cycle. Every 3 weeks, it's a different strength training program. So it's easy to build up throughout those 3 weeks, and then you start over. But if you did the same move
Yeah.
every single week, week after week, it'd be getting pretty hard to add weight after a while. So those cycles really give you the opportunity to have progressive overload efficiency every single week. And so, and I've been working with this trainer for a year, and I've been working with, I don't know if you ever heard of Gabrielle Lyon, but she's an amazing doctor. I went through a lot of doctors for about a year and a half. I had breast implants, and I had them removed because they really made me sick. They made me have so much inflammation. I had gut issues. I had endocrine system hormonal issues. The hair loss, like my hair's finally growing back, but it
Looks
was
good,
like,
girl.
thanks, but it was a 10-year detour for sure.
Wow.
And yeah, I actually was just looking back at some photos. I'm like, oh my God, 10 years ago, like I got those things. And like it was a long process. But in that process, my point is that for those frustrated, whatever they have going on, whether it's, could just be life itself and age. And I think that I don't buy into the fact that just because you're getting older, things are supposed to just slide and be worse. I do
Agree.
think that it might take more effort. I think you might have to put some in.
Got to
I
be
think
smarter
that
about it.
you totally have to be smarter about it. And I think a little bit of working out less is an age thing too, because your body becomes a little more sensitive to the stress. But I mean, I went through a lot of doctors to find Gabrielle, and all I'm going to say is that, a lot of times people get a bad taste in their mouth because they try something and it doesn't work. And I tried about 15 somethings and they didn't work, but I always knew I'd find the right person. And doctors tend to be able to they have kind of like their sort of like way of doing things. And it's a matter of you finding one that matches with you and that really gets you. And so that's my advice to people is I'd say if you're struggling and something's not working, you have to keep trying. It's not just a plug and play process. All bodies are quite unique, and doctors are as well.
Yeah, you got to find somebody that fits what you need. Look, before I let you go, and thank you for spending some time with us. I think that what you did in this election, I think was you may not even know how impactful it was, and I feel like it's hard for me to like look in from the outside and figure that stuff out. But I think it was a very big deal that you came out and you did what you ultimately did. You campaigned for Donald Trump. You're very open in your support. You had never been involved in politics before. But look, you had, since your racing career, you've written books. Obviously, we're talking about fitness. You have a podcast of your own called Pretty Intense. I think you've done some 200 and some episodes, guests of all different varieties. I wonder though, how much of all of that do you think was a factor in being open-minded enough, thinking for yourself enough to really be like, yeah, not only I'm going to vote in this election, but I'm going to come out and very publicly endorse Donald Trump and support him in every way I possibly can.
Yeah. Well, thank you, by the way. I mean, that's very
Yeah.
kind of you. One day when I grow up, I want to be a public speaker that's as captivating and powerful and concise as you.
Oh,
So if you have a course, I'll
thank
take it.
you.
You do. You are a phenomenal speaker, and it's a real skill of yours, and
Thank
I love
you.
listening to you. I think that, there's a few things. I mean, throughout my life, it's given me the ability to have the skill set to be able to do what needs to be done, speak on stage, communicate ideas. I think that truth and authenticity are a big part of it. I think people can sense that frequency, as I said from the very beginning. And I think that as you have more experience in life, and you don't have to be old to have experiences in life, but it definitely helps, is that you know who you are. And, when you know who you are, you can stand really tall and strong in your belief, and that people don't make you waver. And, many people, it's been probably one of them. I've had more people stop me in sort of regular everyday life and just sort of like, they usually just like grab my arm and they look at me and they go, "Thank you so much for what you did.
Wow.
Thank you
Wow.
for being
See?
brave enough to speak up." And, I guess I don't feel like it was that brave because I was that convinced. Like, I believed in it that much that it wasn't like, I was more like, I don't feel like I'm being brave. I feel like I'm just trying to, like, I feel like I'm just trying to help wake people up. Like, don't you see what's going on?
Right.
I felt like this, like, inertia of conviction of this idea and of this movement and of what needed to be done, that, but yes, I mean, on some level there was backlash. I mean, that's what motivated me, was when people heard, I wrote a post that said, "I love this country," and people didn't like it. It honestly just pissed me off.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what that inertia came from, was just getting back to a make it make sense. Like, make it make sense needs to go away. We need this sort of much more common sense, much more, if you got to be able to say, like, "I love this country," without that being political. That should just be American. It shouldn't be Republican.
An American
And
flag representing all of us. Imagine that.
right,
Yeah.
right. And wearing, exactly, it's like unfathomable that an American flag will be rejected by less than half of the voters because that's a Republican thing. That's wild to me, and completely un-American. And so I felt a real, I appreciate that people appreciated that bravery, but I encourage people to just continue on their own exploration to get to the point where it doesn't feel brave, it just feels right.
Amen. Well, you are awesome, and I'm very grateful, honestly, that I'm grateful you did this for a lot of reasons, but selfishly I'm grateful because I got to know you and I consider you a friend, and I feel like what hopefully you experienced is that once you were there, kind of like in the trenches fighting alongside people for something that is so much bigger than you, and I think we all felt that throughout the course of this.
Yeah.
It really bonds you to people in a way, right? And so I know you and I haven't known each other that long, but I will always consider you a friend. And I'm so grateful that you did this, Danica, so that I got to know you, and that you've been a part of my life and vice versa. So truly, on behalf of our whole family, but really kind of selfishly for me, thanks for doing it so that
Oh,
here we are. Yeah.
I mean, how fun to get. I mean, you did such a great job, and the Women for Trump stuff was so fun to do. There were so many great women, which is where we saw each other the most. But I mean, we talked a lot about health, and people keep asking me about running for office in some way, and I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a very. I mean, I know that's on. Is that happening for you in Florida?
Oh,
Are you
we're
going to be
we'll
a
see what
senator?
happens. We'll see what happens.
I'm sure that's going to happen.
I don't know yet. I don't know
That
yet,
sounds,
but
I mean, the idea of all of it sounds kind of fun, but it also sounds like a lot of work. And there's just like so much other stuff going on. I'm like, wow, that would be a big life leap. But who knows in the future? But in the meantime, you know, again, we talked about health. I mean, that Maha stuff. If it wasn't people saying that, you know, being upset about the I Love America comment, it's the health stuff. It's our food, it's our
Yeah.
skies, it's our water, it's, you know, that became the thing that I couldn't really run from anymore. So maybe there'll be some opportunity for me to be involved in some way in the Maha movement and whatever needs to be done to get that stuff cleaned up. I know that Bobby's got an ambitious plan and maybe he needs help.
Well, I can't think of anybody better. So you are the greatest. Thank you, my friend
Thank
Danica
you.
Patrick, for being
Thank
with us, for being you, for all that you've done. We appreciate you so much. And to everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.